Bam, we're live. What's good, Michael?
Not too much. Oh, well, not too much and everything at the same time. You know, just living the good life every day, getting up, trying to get after it, and stay busy and productive.
Yeah, that's good. Same here. Same here. So I guess I'll do a quick intro. It's been a while. Just welcome everybody back to my podcast. I do things a little bit more streamlined. I don't actually take time to edit things. I just do it in one shot. Michael here, he's a good podcaster. He actually knows how to put an intro to his things. But it's been a while. I figured I would just jump on one of these and shoot a podcast for you guys. And it's because it could be a good pastime for me during quarantine, but also for you guys to have some good content about Praxis. So, Michael, what I like to do typically, and I kind of gave you a little preface, but basically I just like to chat about how you ended up going to Praxis and what you're hoping to get out of it and kind of just the whole Praxis journey in general. So why don't you just start off by introducing yourself and giving us a little bit of background?
Yeah, of course. My name is Michael Simonton. I am the 9th of 14 children. I grew up in a very traditional Catholic household. And so from a very young age, you just growing up, going about normal life. So normal to me is not normal to everyone else, especially being like one of 14. That didn't really sink until I got a little older. But, I went to boarding schools for high school. And then I graduated and I came back to Florida, which is where I grew up and was raised. And I just started doing the normal thing. I got a job working at Panera while I took some time to figure out what I was going after. Eventually, I did get into college for a bit. I played around with that. I got my associate's in arts degree, whatever that means. And I was super close to getting my associate's in science and something related to, I think it was like accounting or something. And then I kind of dropped that ball because stuff started happening. Because I didn't think, the classroom or the college experience and college as a whole was something that I really valued and wanted to continue with. Throughout that time I was, working jobs. So I went from, Panera to Starbucks. And then I ended up at SpaceX for about 9 months. And that was a lot of fun. That got me, in a completely different culture and environment, surrounded by professionals who, go to work and they work long hours. And it was a really cool environment. And to be a part of that company culture for a bit, I was super stoked up and fired up about it. And I had I created a whole 5-year plan around it and had a goal for my life there with them. And then in early 2019, they did their mass layoffs where they cut like 10% of their employees. And I was part of that. I guess, making coffee for everyone isn't really that important when it comes to flying to Mars. But so I rode that boat while it was good. I enjoyed it while I was there. However, in that moment, so I was on a date. It was like January 11th or something like that. And it was, like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning. And I looked at my phone and I had just gotten this email. And it was like, so sorry to inform you, but blah, blah, blah. Your time with SpaceX is done. Like we're letting you go. And it was like that was the oh fuck moment. And I was like, oh fuck. And then it's like, hey, there's a lot of other fucks that followed that, this. And but that really got me thinking. I was like, no, I don't want to be working for other people, and I don't want to keep doing this whole checking the box things and seeing if you're good enough and running around chasing them down hey, for that stamp of approval for their affirmation. And so I started living life a little differently since then, as in started actually doing things that I wanted to. Because in that moment, I also realized, A, I wanted to have my own business one day, and I wanted to run my own stuff. And then B, I was like, I have all these dreams and aspirations that I have never pursued because I was busy buying into the culture, going out and getting drinks with the dudes, going out partying, just living that lifestyle where it's like, it was the cool thing to do, And I look back at my life and I realized there were so many opportunities and missed opportunities for growth and development and stuff that I passions that I wanted to pursue that I just hadn't because I was too busy trying to do the day-to-day look normal thing. And so since then, it's been a little different. Like I got a job bartending. I moved to Atlanta on a whim for the most part. And I discovered Praxis. So how I discovered Praxis specifically was I was doing a job search, getting to more professional careers. And I had a friend, and we were brainstorming one day, and she sent me over a list of job boards, places to search, you keep little hacks and stuff. And on that list was just this one word, Praxis. And I was like, well, that's weird. I've seen all these other things before. You kind of know what they are, kind of use them. I was like, but I have no idea what this is. So I clicked on it. It pulled up this website. And it was like 10 o'clock at night at this point in time. I had been drinking a hot toddy or two. I was feeling great. And I saw it and I was like, yo, they had an interview process. And on the first thing, I saw the landing page and I read through their first, 100 words of copy. And I was all in. I was completely bought in, sold out. And I was like, this is something that I want to be a part of. This is something that I believe in, and this is something that's right for me. And so, it was 10 o'clock, 10:30, and I threw on a dress shirt. They had an interview process, threw on a dress shirt, tie, sitting there with my hot toddy, and went through the interview process for it. Somehow I got accepted. I think it may have made me a little more fluid, sorry. But, it was good. And we'll end it there for that. But that's a little bit of backstory on me and how I discovered Praxis.
So I guess, what was because I think a lot of people going into Praxis, especially the interview process, which I also thought was awesome for the record. I thought that if anything, like even if I don't get accepted to Praxis, I really appreciated the interview process. I thought it was great. Mm-hmm. But because what is your current timeline in Praxis right now? You're in what, month 3 or 4?
Month 4 during the placement portfolio. So it's the time of the program where you're sending out pitches to companies that you would like to work for. Some you're more excited about than others, and those ones is a little easier to do. But you're putting yourself out there. You're reaching out to these HR people and these recruiters, and you're saying, hire me. I have these skills. You're looking for this. I can fill this need, and I can demonstrate this through X, Y, and Z. And so that's the stage I'm at. And I've just been, putting out a couple of those, as many as I can a week, and just following up on that.
Yeah, they changed it up a little bit because normally month 4 was the portfolio project, I think, right?
So how it goes as of January 2020, it could be now, and
it could be different, yeah.
Coming on May 2020. But it was the first month is the broad overview of all of the roles and what happens in startups, and some of the basic, very generic tech tools, how to structure your day, how to go about emailing professionally, stuff like that. The whole second month is focused on it's a writing portfolio or a writing module. So that whole month you're learning how to write and create value through writing, whether that's how-to blog posts, or product reviews, or there are a couple others. But the whole point there is to build a portfolio for you to demonstrate and to lean on, but also to demonstrate to employers, that you have these skills, that you understand what's happening here, and that you can do these things. And then last month for me was the third month, which is the portfolio project month. So that's where you choose a project and you deep dive on that, and you spend the whole month working and building out this project that ideally shows and creates value for not only yourself but someone else. And it's something that you're going to use from there on out to demonstrate and to point back to and reference as a measure of your skill. Be like, hey, I can do these things. I have done. Don't believe me? Look, I have done it. Oh, I want to get into sales. Well, I built this sales funnel for this company who didn't even ask me to do it, but this is what I learned. This is how I can do it again. This is how I expedite the process, all that stuff.
Got it, for sure. Okay, that makes sense.
And then the last 3 months are placement. Yeah.
Okay, so they have 3 months replacement. Okay, they used to have just 2. That's when I went through it, but they changed this stuff so quickly. Any Praxians listening know that. But I guess my major question here was, prior to starting, how many months did you have, first of all, prior to actually starting once you got accepted?
Oh, prior, I didn't have any.
Oh, you started right away.
Yeah, no, I started right away. So I started the application process in like December. Yeah, it was like December 12th, I think. And
Oh,
so I finished out, got that whole acceptance letter around the 19th, 20th. In which case, I was heading down to Florida to visit family for Christmas. And when I got back, it was, hit the ground running.
very good. Okay, yeah, because I had a couple months lead time because that's at the time they weren't doing classes every month. They were starting them every 3 months, and they once I joined, it was every month they started classes. I think from that point on. But
Okay.
I guess my question then would be, what is the like? What was your mindset of Praxis, and what did you see the outcome being, or see the boot camp being like prior to going into it versus what you see now? Like how has your point of view changed on it?
So prior to going in, I had a conversation with Nick Arl, and one of the things he said is that like the real value of praxis is teaching you that you don't need praxis. And I thought that was very insightful because so going in, it was like, hey, yeah, you're learning these skills, you're building this community, you're developing, and you're growing in all these elements. But then towards the end of it, once you have kind of got a grasp on those skills, you start to figure things out more on your own, and you take more of an entrepreneurial ownership element to it. And so that's what his point there was, like, once you to get there, you have to be good enough. You have to have learned your stuff, and then you don't necessarily need the program to lean on because you have your skills to lean on. And so that's one thing that shifted for me, is because going in, I definitely thought, well, for one, I thought it was going to be 6 months of a boot camp, like not necessarily 3 months, then 3 months for placement. I'm totally cool with that. I like that, actually. but but that was one preconceived notion. And then I was throughout the interview process, I forget who I talked to, but they mentioned that the community is great, which it is. But they said that like everyone's always creating new stuff, and like there's always someone working on different projects. And when I first started, I saw a little bit of that, but then like I didn't see too much of it. And well, probably because I didn't know how to look. And so that was one notion that I had preconceived that wasn't necessarily accurate, is because from the sounds of it, I thought like everyone was out there basically being an entrepreneur. And then once they realized what was actually happening, I was like, oh no, that actually makes a lot more sense. Totally on board with that one too. Like, I'm here for the show. I mean, yes, it's also my life,
Mhm.
but I'm here to see what is offered, and I think it's great.
Yeah, for sure. I think that for me, it was really odd because like I came from middle of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
The town I lived in growing up, or the town I lived in when I signed up for Praxis, which was way bigger than a town I grew up in, had like maybe 30,000, 40,000 people in it, right? Very small. And this whole idea of a startup to me was super cool. Like I just imagined these cool hip offices that looked like, I had never been in a WeWork at that point in my life.
Okay.
Like I just imagined like this kind of place in the sky. And I think that once I got into Praxis, I realized like a lot of those notions were kind of just like, turned into dust, obviously. But at the same time, it definitely changed a lot. I know that much. And I think that that's a very good summary by Nick there. That is a good way to put it, that Praxis teaches you don't need Praxis. I really like that. That sounds like something TK would say.
Well, I mean, isn't that the whole point of a teacher, to
Yeah.
teach your students enough and skills and stuff like that, to develop them enough where they don't necessarily need them anymore? Yes, they're still there. They're a great resource. You appreciate them. You love them for what they did for you and for what they're doing for others. But you're at a different place. It's just a different part of the process and of the journey.
And that's
So,
that's the true educational spirit, right? That I feel like, I mean, I was homeschooled growing up. I don't know if you said you went to boarding school.
yes.
Yeah, so I was homeschooled growing up. I had never been in a classroom situation other than catechism. I was also Catholic, for those people who don't know. Um, I am Catholic, sorry, not was, still am. But I never had that experience with any kind of like public school system or college at all. So I guess it's hard for me to understand it, but it seems as though a lot of teachers, they don't have that mindset of teaching you how to do something without me. It's like they partially want the glory, if you know what I mean. of saying,
yeah, I get what you absolutely. I get what you're saying, and I think that's just a misshapen or a badly formed value structure
yeah,
on what's important, priorities. But yeah,
yeah,
no, you're definitely right there. I think that, well, the difference there is I was taught primarily how to think, not what to think. And that's a lot of the biggest difference there is that most of these institutions, they don't teach you how to think. They teach you what to think. They teach you only what they want you to think. And so it's not useful at all when you
yeah.
once you leave that institution, because you get on the real world and you're like, oh wow, none of this is real.
Yeah, I mean
I don't know actually how to think through a problem.
it was that exact line that my dad always told us was, yeah, all the public schools teach you is what to think and not how to think. So like that was maybe part of why I ended up in Praxis. But so I guess one thing would be back to your journey with Praxis. You're in placement now. What is the placement? What are your kind of vibes with the placement process? Are you enjoying it? What kind of struggles have you found? Maybe tailor the answer to people who haven't started Praxis yet or are about to go into placement.
So placement's a lot like sales, because it's exactly sales. You're selling yourself every single day. It's fantastic and it's a lot of fun. However, you only get out what you put in. So know that beforehand and go in there expecting to do more work than you should, or are expected to do more work than is expected of you. I was talking to Nick Rundlet, and he quoted the stat that Jordan Peterson quotes, and that's people who do 10% more work or work 10% more hours receive 40% more in return. So in placement currently, I think you're supposed to be putting out like 3 to 4 pitches a week, 1 or 2 value props, and taking that piece of information right there, that stat, don't just do 3 to 4 or whatever it is. Don't do the minimum. Always do 10% more, at least, because the dividends and the dividends that pays you in the end is so much. It's exponential. It's not a linear relationship, and so you get so much more from that, and you will go so much farther because of that. Another thing about placement is that a lot of people, you're nervous at first. You're sitting there, you're pitching yourself, you're reaching out to these clients, you'll get your no's, you'll get some yeses. It is exactly what it is. It's sales. And you can't get down in the weeds. You can't let that stuff get you down. If you get a no, you're like, all right, hell yeah. Let's take a step back, detach, assess, and then move forward. Like, you do debrief the situation, figure out what you did right, what you did wrong, maybe how you could have gone about that differently, and then just keep going. It's not like because you don't get a yes because you get a no, because you get rejected and turned down. It's not a bad thing. It's just as much of a good thing as a yes. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to learning, it is. In the grand scheme of things, yes, you'd prefer to get a yes because obviously that leads to an opportunity. However, it's all part of the process. You're there to learn and to grow. So in the beginning, just crank out those pitches. Try to get in contact with as many people as possible, and reach out to the fellow Praxians. Everyone here is a wealth of information, and but do that so much in the beginning, because that way when week 2 or 3 comes, you're comfortable and you're just getting after it. It's not like you got rid of like the fears and the anxiety or whatever it is, all these obstacles that you've created around it. You're just used to it. You're inundated. So I'd say those pieces of advice.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, actually. And one thing I would touch on is I had my first pitch was to Ceteris. So that's are you familiar with them?
I listened to Isaac's Career Crashers with his brother the other day, so heard a little bit about
Levi,
Ceteris.
right? Levi, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Morehouse.
When I heard about that opportunity, I was super pumped because I thought it was actually Levi that ended up getting me interested in the idea of operations. Because for a long time, I started out in the process in Praxis wanting to do marketing, and then throughout the first couple of months, I forget exactly, we had to watch some videos, and Levi talked about operations. So I was super excited, and he seemed like a really good leader. So I was like super pumped for that pitch. But it was also my first one, and I had this unrealistic expectation of myself that like I'm really glad I did not get that job, right? Like I was at a point where I just wanted to nail it just because like it was probably my pride saying, I'm going to get like the first company I pitch, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Totally wrong. I would have not liked that job at all, right? Like praise the Lord that did not happen. So like just I know everybody says this, but like really take it and run with it is that you don't necessarily want to end up with the first place you pitch. And don't worry about saving the best pitches for last. Don't worry about pitching companies you don't care about. Just do the pitches and things will work out fine for you, you know? I guess.
Some people
So,
call that luck. Sorry,
yeah.
I'm going to jump in there. Some people call that luck, but
Yeah.
really what it is luck, because there's no such thing as luck. Luck is when opportunity or when preparation meets opportunity. So by doing all of that work, you're prepared for when the right opportunity arises. And so, yeah, just do the work. Don't worry about it.
That is a really good way to put it. And I also had one story that I have throughout the pitching process, throughout the placement process, was that I had an opportunity come up with I forget the name of it, Fortibus, I think it was. It was a company also. They somehow knew Levi, I think. Point is, I ended up getting really far to the interview process, and it was at the last interview, and like I'm pretty sure they were about to offer me, and then I said, listen, because the owners were there, and I said, listen, like I had a moment of like a come to Jesus moment where I was like, I really don't want to do this, and I said, listen, like I just don't feel it, and I totally appreciate that because I think it had to do with the role, but like I just want to mention to anybody listening is that if you get to that point and you don't have an opportunity that you're really excited about, but you're like, damn it, like I don't want to miss out on this opportunity. Like, what if this is the one? If it doesn't feel right, do not do it because trust me, it will work out. You will find one that you vibe with, and that's what I ended up having, and I'm super happy I did it. Um, so I want to turn back just to kind of close up here with your from this point on. You know, what are you looking forward most to? Okay, what's kind of in the pipeline? Do you have anything exciting that you're hoping for? Your ideal outcome for the program, et cetera?
Of course. So I would love to land an awesome job in marketing or operations. However, I'm coming to realize that the best way for me to get in, and one of the best skills that I need to develop first and foremost, is probably sales. So I've started leaning a little bit more towards that route. And so I'd love to land a great sales role. And that's what I'm pursuing, obviously, you know, sending out pitches and stuff. And then I started the podcast for my portfolio project, and it's called The Aspiring Professional. And that's something that I want to continue to grow and to develop for like at least a year to come. So like in my pipeline, I've really got two priorities. A, get a kick-ass job where I can learn, grow, and develop and help a company out, whatever, do all that stuff there. But then I want to build up a platform for, aspiring professionals, for people who are getting out there. And so they can go to for like resources, for tips, tricks, and advice from professionals. And it's like, that's really it. That's it. Like, cause I've always wanted to start a podcast and I love that stuff. And so when I finally had this little push, the push to do a project, or portfolio, I realized that this is the best opportunity for me to do that. And so I went after it. And honestly, it's been one of the most rewarding things so far. So like those two things, combine the two, and I'll have hopefully potentially a kick-ass job. And then so something that I'm going to work every day, and let's use a metaphor of like a cup, and I'm sitting there and I'm pouring out of my cup into other individuals' cups and slightly filling those up, through however, and then I get to go home and I get to work on my podcast, and it's like refilling my cup. And so it would be a self-sufficient cycle basically. Like I'd get all the energy and the aspirations and like the motivation I need from one project, and it would completely and feed the other. So that's really what I got. This is my two highlights, and those are what I'm really looking forward to most. I've been interviewing with Udemy had one interview last week, got another one set up for this week, and that's exciting. I think that could be a great opportunity. It's out in Colorado, so kind of bummed about that. That was the other the misconception that I had jumping into Praxis is I was like, okay, yes, I understand we'll have to move, but I won't. Like, there's always that, but not me. And I'm starting to realize that, that's probably not the case. And that's, I've made my peace with that, everything's
Yeah.
good for a time, for a reason, for a season, whatever. And it's time for me to take the next step. So
that was something
yeah.
that for me too, with the whole moving piece, is I thought, I'm not quite sure about it. And that's why I ended up being lucky. I had the summer leading up to Praxis, because I started in August. So the couple months prior to it, I was kind of just driving around the country, at least the Midwest mostly, and just checking out cities and stuff. And I thought I wanted to go to Detroit. And I was like so set that I was going to go to Detroit. I actually really like Detroit, for the record. But Praxis didn't have any opportunities in Detroit. And I was like, I'm going to get an opportunity in Detroit. I'm going to make it happen, right? And I was really close to. It didn't work out ultimately. But I think that the moving is actually so like vital to a person's growth, because like you've already done it multiple times. Like you've lived in different cities, so it's maybe not as big for you. But for me, growing up in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin, and then moving to slightly somewhere, Wisconsin, still pretty much in the middle of nowhere, it really, moving to New York has really given me a lot of perspective in just the almost 2 months that I've been here.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, that makes sense. Have you talked to Charles Porges at Grayscale? They're in Atlanta.
I haven't.
You should talk to them.
Have been meaning to do that.
He could either be good for your podcast.
I'll grab that from you afterwards. Yeah.
Or he'd be good to chat with. But by the way, kudos on the podcast. Where can people reach out to you if they want to maybe see if they're worthy of an interview, or if they have somebody, or if they'd like to listen?
Worthy of an interview. The way you worded that. So the best place, obviously it's theaspiringprofessional.com is the website I built out for it. And there is a contact box there. You could use that. Or you could hit me up on LinkedIn. And that's going to be, LinkedIn at Michael Simonton. Or there's also, if you're in the Praxis community, you've got Workplace, you've got Slack, and I try to stay as involved in there as I can. Primarily those two resources. And I am always open for suggestions. I'm always loving to hear stories and to figure out, because everyone has one, and everyone has that advice that they wish they had, that they could give to others. And I just want to provide a platform to share that. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily a matter of being worthy. I won't lie. I try to be selective because
it's your work.
Because it's your work. Yeah, no, it's I take extreme pride and ownership of it, and I don't just want any rando on there. So, but if you've got a story, if you've done something kick-ass, yeah, let's hear it. Let's use that. But if you're working, I don't think I'd interview myself right now, maybe in a couple months, but that's the difference. I don't think where I'm at today, sure, I have experience and knowledge, but I don't think it's something that I'd like to be I'd showcase someone and be yeah, look at this. I'm no, I'm in an in-between phase. And until I get to somewhere else, I don't think I'd want to be.
That's one thing about Praxis that I found so interesting, is that, I wasn't the youngest person in my cohort by any means. I mean, there's a lot of these kids who just came in there straight away from 18 years old, right? And I realized that you can learn from anybody. An 18-year-old can be extremely a badass. And I had probably some kind of pride about myself because I had done sales for a year and a half, right? I had more real life experience than most of these kids, which was at times you could see it, right? And you could just you kind of chuckle inside when they say certain things, and you have even more life experience. So you probably see that all the time. You're just oh, come on, guys.
Not really. I mean, I try never to get there.
You try never to get there?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just some of the people, no offense, but there's some of the people that I came across in Praxis, and it's they're really they're going to be successful, and that. But at the same time, they just ask questions, and you're just you kind of you're excited for them because they're going to go places. But at the same time, you're oh man, you really haven't done much yet, that's totally fine, right?
Part of the process. That's why we're here.
Process,
you know? But it's good stuff.
For sure. All right. Well, anyways, I appreciate it. I'll put your links in. Everybody wants to go check out the Aspiring Professional. I'll put the links in the descriptions here. Let's see if I can remember actually how to upload a podcast. It's been 4 months almost. So, all right. Thanks so much, Michael.